Hello and welcome to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy, Only Fools and Horses. I'm Jenny and I'm joined from Hong Kong by my co-host and sister Heather. Say hello, dude.
Hello, everyone.
Today we are discussing Series 3, Episode 7, Who's a Pretty Boy? So grab a packet of Jaffa Cakes and let's get started.
This episode aired on the BBC at 8:30 p.m. on Thursday, December 22nd, 1983, just 2 days before Christmas Eve. Viewing figures broke the records again, 11.9 million this week. Trading Places finished off the year strong at number 1 at the UK box office, and Only You by the Flying Pickets was still sailing high as the number 1 song, looking set to be the Christmas number 1. Let's move on to a little trivia for this week, shall we, dude?
Yes, let's do that. So, it almost feels like the Only Fools and Horses world is complete now, with this episode marking the first appearances of some of our favourite characters. Denzil, the long-distance lorry driver, and Mike, the new landlord of the Nag's Head. This episode was sadly the only appearance of actress Eva Motley as Denzil's wife Corinne. Motley sadly passed away just over a year later, in February 1985. Sullivan did not want to recast Corinne, but kept her character alive for many years, with references back to her even after Denzil and Corinne's characters finally separated off screen. Corinne could be seen as the first real strong female character of the show. No nonsense and completely on to Dell's schemes. It's a shame we only have her for this one episode, and I have included a little more about her in the actual episode breakdown. So the story for this episode was unfortunately true. Sullivan had heard the story from a decorator who accidentally killed a client's budgie and tried to prop it up with a matchstick. It didn't work. We mentioned this in Cash and Curry, but this episode is one of the 3 to not have any scenes at the Trotter flat in Nelson Mandela, with the final one being The Longest Night. Brendan O'Shaughnessy is mentioned again in Series 4 episode As One Door Closes, but does not appear. Scenes at the Louis Lombardi's pet shop were filmed in an actual pet shop in Devonshire Road in Chiswick, which was close to the Bolton Hotel on Duke Road, where the Nag's Head exterior scene was filmed for this episode, where the van pulls up outside at the beginning. And finally, Denzil and Corinne's surname on all the wiki pages appears to be Tulsa, but I want to know where that comes from because I don't recall it being mentioned in any episodes. There's also this whole thing with Trigger, so this is where we're going to need input. Everyone says that Trigger's name is Colin Bell, is it? But when does that get said? Yeah, I want to know, because I've never heard Denzil's last name get said, but they have it on the wiki page as Tulsa, so let us know below if you know where that comes from. Maybe it's from like the Peckham Bibles or whatever, because they released all these books years later, which are like fictional fact books. And I've never read any of them. Maybe. And they say a lot of stuff on the IMDb trivia. They say, like, it says in the Peckham Bible that Dell got this item from this thing here. And it's like, obviously it's fictional, but they, like, explain and create backstory. So maybe that's where it came from. Because I've never read any of those Peckham Bibles.
Well, you know, I haven't. Not a big reader.
But anyway, shall we move on to our rankings for this week, dude?
Yes, let's do that. So, as our regular listeners will know by now, each week we reveal and compare our rankings for the episode, and prior to recording the entire podcast, we independently ranked all 64 episodes. So if you didn't already know all that, you are not yet one of our regular punters, so we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast. We release a new episode every Saturday. So, dude, what is your ranking for Who's a Pretty Boy?
So my ranking for Who's a Pretty Boy is 32.
Oh, it's quite high.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely high for me. I mean, yeah, like I feel like all of mine seem to come out low, even though I do love the episode, so I don't know why, but yeah. This is like bang in the middle for me, but I would say, yeah, it's got to be one of my favorite episodes in Series 3. I do really like this episode. I think it's the Corinne aspect, it's the panic, like the 3 Trotters working together kind of thing. Like, I like all that vibe, and I think Corinne's such a great character. What about you? What was your ranking for this episode?
My ranking for this episode is 44.
Oh, that's a lot lower than I thought it would be for you.
Yeah. I think one of the main reasons that this episode is a little bit lower for me is it's a bit of a one-trick pony, because the punchline, if you like, of the episode is that the canary was dead all along. So there is that sort of reveal that a lot of the episode relies on for the momentum to build. But I also feel like I always felt like this was a bit of a rehash of The Yellow Peril. It's got a lot of similarities. particularly the decorating angle. And even the fact that the canary is yellow kind of reminds me of it for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I agree with you, though, with regards to how important this episode is, because, of course, as you said, we get Denzil, we get Corinne, and we get Mike, and Brendan, actually, because Brendan's mentioned several times throughout the rest of the series, even though he's never seen again. In this episode, they're all introduced. So it's an important episode, and it's got some great moments in it, of course. But again, for me, it's not like one of the ones I go to put on and watch again as a top choice. It's not one that I wouldn't watch again. Of course, I enjoy watching it again, but yeah, not one of my top episodes. And when they're not one of your top episodes, they kind of just slot in anywhere you've got space in the rankings, right? And that's kind of how this one ended up at 44, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that you did that. So for IMDb, this one's actually 25, which is quite high. Yeah, it's pretty high. I think people remember it. That's why.
I remember it. Yeah, it's definitely a memorable episode. But yeah, again, for me, just maybe a bit of a one-trick pony, I'd say. That's the only thing about this episode.
Sure.
For that particular part of it, anyway. Shall we go ahead and start the episode breakdown?
La 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 la.
So the episode opens with a shot of the van driving down a street and parking behind another van with the name B. O'Shaughnessy written on it. So now we as the audience have not come across this character yet, but Del lets us know that he knows him.
Look who's here, look. Phil the Fluter. Diddly-doo-doo.
Which I'm pretty sure is a reference to the song Phil the Fluter's Ball, written by once well-known popular songwriter Percy French in his college years. So Rodney wants Del not to wind Brendan up.
It could be rivers of blood.
Yeah, there will be rivers of blood. Look at the way he tucked us up with that paint last week.
We know already that these guys are not on great terms. So this is supposed to be outside the Nag's Head. The regulars will know that we see so many different versions of outside of the Nag's Head over the years. This is the only one that appears to have a street parking situation. I don't remember any other times that it isn't like a big car park or a smaller car park.
I've got to say, I actually thought they were pulling up outside the Golden Lotus.
Yeah, maybe that's another reason you thought it was like Yellow Peril. It doesn't, it's not like, you don't think they're going into the Nag's Head, let's put it that way. Because this makes it look like the Nag's Head is on a busy street with street parking only. Whereas in future episodes, I mean, some of them, the car park is massive, like Miami Twice Part 1.
Yeah, in Dates, right?
But even the Dates one is even smaller. And then there's there's all these different ones. Like I'm thinking of Mother Nature's Son. There's like so many different versions of the outside.
Well, even the inside of the Nag's Head changes a lot. So.
Well, that was just the one big major set change that happens. Yes, I know what you're thinking of. But yeah, the Nag's Head was just a set that was the same all the time until that one big set change where they flipped the angle. The scene ends with Del giving Rodney an out-of-order bag for the meter and heading inside. So I don't know if you need to treat this as a separate scene. Did you have notes?
Again, similarity to the Yellow Peril. Doesn't he do the same when he pulls up outside and puts the thing on the meter?
They do start the same way. Yeah, it's like pull up outside, discussion, and bag on the meter. So we cut to the inside of the Nag's Head and Del walks in and he stops to talk to Ranji. Now, I've seen some people say that this interaction gets cut out sometimes. I do think it probably does get cut out because of what some people would interpret as racist joke.
Yeah, I saw your missus on Tuesday. She got a terrible spot on her forehead, didn't she?
Yeah, but the guy is laughing, so I don't know. I feel like it's if the person, or let's say the race that you are mocking, is laughing with you and thinking it's funny, I don't think there should be a problem.
I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of people that wouldn't agree with that.
Well, it's also not intended to be offensive. It's nice sort of banter between him and a friend, you know. So I mean, if anything's racist in this episode, it's all about how they talk about Rodney being so white.
Yeah. So while Del is talking to Karen, she mentions that the Nag's Head's getting done up soon, and here Del makes a joke.
About time it was redecorated. Last time it was done, they had to keep stopping because of the Zeppelin raids.
So that would be referral back to the World War I, in case anyone needs that joke explaining. So then Del sees Brendan across the bar. He calls him
Paddy McGinty's goat,
which was a comic song written in 1917 telling the story of an aggressive goat that comes to a village in Ireland, and terrorizes the village by butting all the inhabitants and eating everything in sight.
Wouldn't that be considered racist?
I was just going to say, I mean, when you said the only thing racist in this episode, I thought you were going to say all of the Irish stuff.
Irish jokes. Yeah, that too.
In this episode, we actually have an Irish decorator. Whereas in all the other episodes where there's been lots of anti-Irish stuff, we haven't had anyone representing the trade or nobody Irish, right? We have a character in this who's very funny and gets one over on Del several times. So like that whole thing about the Irish tumble dryer, like saying Irish people are stupid and stuff. This guy actually tricks Del several times, right? Like he sold him paint, he manages to get the job back at the end, and he gets the job for the Nag's Heads.
Yeah, totally. And you know who Brendan reminded me of is the guy in a losing streak who comes in and says, I'll have a dry martini and a slimline tonic.
Well, lots of people think it's the same guy, but that guy, yeah, it's not the same guy to start with. You can actually see that it's not. But he's not credited as the actor who's in this, so I'm pretty sure people are just saying that because he's a big Irish guy, which isn't that racist.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. The two Irish characters they've had in Fools and Horses so far are very stereotypical Irish men, you know, big beards, big hair, tall.
Yeah, right. So Brendan doesn't seem offended at all by the nickname, and he quite warmly greets Del from the other side of the bar. Here we have actor David Jackson, alongside David Jason. David Jackson has a ton of credits on IMDb and is perhaps most notable for being in Blake 7. And I don't think the Irish accent is real because he was born in Lancaster, but if anybody knows, please let me know, because I don't know. So we get a bit of banter between the two of them. We learn that the paint that Del mentioned earlier was
Supposed to be apple white.
What was it?
Battleship grey.
and Del accuses Brendan of being a con artist. So here we get quite a famous line from Del when the barmaid interjects and says,
You know that overcoat you sold me Dad?
Yeah.
It's got a great big lump in the back.
Of course, it's genuine camel hair, isn't it?
Del here seems quite lightly forgiving of Brendan because Brendan gives him a look as if to say, oh, I'm a con artist, am I? Well, what about you? So here it seems a little bit like that relationship you had with Boise at the beginning where they're both, they're in the same trade, but like they are against each other, but they also understand each other's kind of motives and tactics and stuff. The conversation ends with Del finding out that Brendan is supposed to be decorating Denzil's front room. So first mention of Denzil, but we don't know who he is yet. As he's leaving, he grabs Rodney, and Rodney seems really scared of him. But then when he leaves, Rodney pretends he was going to deck him. So, classic Rodney. And poor Rodney doesn't even get to have a drink here because Del immediately says,
We're doing up Denzil's front room.
You never told me.
I know, I couldn't. I mean, be fair, Rodney. I haven't even told Denzil yet.
And the scene ends there. So, any notes on that little interaction there, dude?
I just wonder why Brendan wants Rodney to be afraid of him. He clearly wants to intimidate Rodney, the way he talks to him, the way he holds on to him when he talks. It's like Del told him on the sly that Rodney's afraid of him and now he's just trying to wind him up. At least that's what I got from it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he just gets some joy out of it somehow, like pretending to frighten him.
Yes. And I've got to say just one more thing about the racist stuff is that it's a shame that we can't sort of take things in the light in which they were intended, or the way they were intended to be taken.
So it's basically like John Sullivan really wanted to do what he did, which was reflect all the different cultures in London and show that they are all friends and interact, and it's not these like different like areas where only Indians hang out with Indians and stuff. He wanted to show that what London was really like. And having Del having all these people that he knows and being able to rib on them was actually a way of showing that, and it ended up getting offensive as time has gone on, which it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like the world could use a little bit more lightheartedness about this stuff. But actually, from everything that I've seen in real life, people in real life still are quite lighthearted about this stuff. It's only people online that get really mad and write things about it.
It's people getting offended on behalf of people who aren't actually offended. That's the biggest problem. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, if you have spent your whole life feeling marginalized because of your culture, you're not going to find things like this funny, are you? But those are not usually the people who are complaining. It's normally people complaining on behalf of those people.
Yeah, that's true. I think, it's something that it seems almost now that people can't even talk about because they're so worried about offending someone in the conversation about it, which is a shame.
So we're at the entrance of Denzil's building now, and Del and Rodney come on in, and we get an expositional conversation so that we understand that Denzil's wife is unhappy with Del about something that happened last year. Del doesn't seem to think that she'll be angry about it anymore, and here Del says that Grandad used to be a painter decorator as well, which is weird because he doesn't mention that in Yellow Peril.
Look, no, you seem to forget that Grandad used to be a decorator for the council.
Del, that was in 1924.
He used to go to work on an horse. And even then he got the sack after 2 days for wallpapering over a serving hatch.
Maybe Grandad told them about it after the Yellow Peril.
Yeah. It seems like Grandad is maybe like a lot like Del back in the day, and he did kind of a bit of everything. No surprises here, but Rodney does not agree with Del's scheme, and he doesn't think anyone will want their living room painted battleship grey.
Del, you'll make their front room look like the conning tower off the Ark Royal.
Conning tower is a raised platform on a ship, which is often armoured, and the Ark Royal is a ship. So there we go. Right. I didn't get that joke unless I looked it up. So Del is determined anyway. He's going to screw Brendan over. That seems to be his main motivation here. So getting a bit of money and screwing Brendan over. So then the scene actually cuts to the inside of Denzil's flat. And this is where we see Paul Barber for the first time as Denzil. So another classic and long-lived character beginning his journey in the show right here. Paul Barber was cast by Ray Butt, and he was originally just going to be in this one episode. But obviously we're glad that didn't happen. Before Only Fools and Horses, Paul Barber had played small parts in lots of TV shows. He was in Brookside, people might remember. Perhaps, I mean, he could even be considered world famous due to the success of The Full Monty, which was made during the time that Only Fools and Horses was being filmed. But he actually says that Denzil is the character that he gets most well recognized for, which is cool. I guess that's in the UK. Cause...
Denzil!
Denzil!
If I ever saw him across the street, that's what I'd shout.
You wouldn't say, Denzil, nicht buying them.
Nicht buying them.
So we see Denzil's talking to the canary in the cage.
Say Viv Richards is king.
So Viv Richards is a West Indian cricket player, in case you need that explaining.
I do.
So the doorbell rings and Denzil greets Del with lots of enthusiasm. Big high five. It says in the script is West Indian style hand slapping. And he greets Rodney, and Rodney tries to be cool.
Rodney, you're looking good.
Yeah.
So Nick Lenhurst is awesome here with his little trying to act cool thing, which he does so well. Yeah. So here we get a bit of back and forth about Denzil calling Rodney white, which is what you referred to earlier, which kind of sends him into a very convenient trance for the remainder of the scene.
Yes,
because
I was gonna say.
If he weren't, he would be there like tearing down Del's like whole lie about Brendan, right? So I think that is a lot of the reason for this. But Del actually looks very scared when he asks if Corinne's about, and Denzil reassures him that she's around her sisters. Denzil starts handing out the beers, and they look like they're really great friends. It looks like a great hangout. And anybody who has seen future episodes will know that Denzil does not always seem so happy to see Del in the future. This is like the first time.
Denzil kind of hates Del. I mean, that would make more sense.
I feel like he's afraid of him. He doesn't hate him.
I'm thinking about the time we see him after the next time we see him, which is to Hollenbach, and he really does want to avoid Del at all costs in that episode.
Well, I mean, they mention it in As One Door Closes that Denzil runs away, and he's like, Denzil was crying when he handed the money over. So, like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is the only time that we see Denzil almost like unscathed and fine and just like, yeah, believing everything Del says. Because after
Which is weird because the last time that he saw him was when he messed up his wedding. So you think that Denzil would have been mad at him still after that. But
it's weird in this episode. It doesn't seem like Denzil's actually mad about the wedding, but that might be because they allowed Corinne to get angry. So anyway, Denzil's saying that Corinne's not mad anymore. So, but we don't know what it is yet as the audience. So here Del does his little performance of scam because he's going to get the painting decorating job off of Brendan. He casually asks Denzil if he's had the place decorated recently, and then starts planting massive seeds of doubt surrounding Brendan's ability to do the job safely.
Here, did you hear about that house he did up in, where was it, Kings Avenue? He made a beautiful job of it, so I hear. Mind you, I only saw it after the fire.
Denzil does a really big drink spit here.
I'd also like to point out there that how does he know that the fire was anything to do with Brendan? Because Brendan could have done the decorating and then weeks later there could have been a fire.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Denzil's spit thing is Del's done the spit a lot, so they like the spit, don't they? As a joke. So yeah, but Del does actually make it sound like Brendan caused the fire. He says that he insinuates he had a few beers and left his blow lamp without supervision.
Yes, I mean, after the spit take, he does, but the spit take was a bit dramatic considering he doesn't know if Brendan's anything to do with the fire.
No, he doesn't, but I guess he wouldn't have to. Just to know that the place burned down was enough shock for Denzil, I guess.
A lot of shock. It's one of the biggest spit takes I've ever seen, actually, the one that he does there. It goes on for ages.
Yeah, but it gets a huge laugh. But Del actually takes it too far because he says,
"Oh yeah, it was an accident." Even the coroner said so.
Del always takes it too far.
Denzil doesn't want to hear no more and says there's no way that Brendan is going to do the job. So here that we see how easy it is for Del to get one over on Denzil, at least at this stage. And Denzil very naively falls for Del's scam. So then Del casually drops into the conversation.
I mean, as I always used to say to my customers when I was in the painting and decorating game, I used to say, it's your money, it's your choice.
In fact, he actually cleverly manages to get Denzil to beg him to do the work. A lot of people online here have pointed out that Denzil would have known Del was lying about this if they have the history as friends. But that hasn't been established yet.
Yeah, no. It's one of those things where they only expected him to be in one episode, so they put this backstory in, but then obviously they had to change it later when it turned out Denzil was at school with them.
Yeah, and I was trying to think about this last night while I was falling asleep, because this is how seriously I take this podcast. When is the first time that they mentioned that Del went to school? Is it class of 62? With Denzil?
I think it is.
I think it is. They don't bring him into the group properly. He's not even in the chain gang group.
No.
Although that might have been deliberate so they could have him be in at the end with his brothers. But we'll have to watch through when the very first time that Sullivan decided that Denzil was going to be part of the old Dockside secondary modern group as well. Because like in Rock and Chips, Denzil moves there and he starts school and he's with them. So like, yeah, it's not a thing that just got brushed over. Denzil was supposed to be part of their school group. So he's friends with Trigger, Boise, all the usual, Slater. But in this episode, yeah, he just threw him in. And I guess he had no intention of him being part of the original group. He would have known probably that Del was lying about being a painter decorator.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you'd think Del was lying about that anyway, because it's, again, that reminds me of the chandelier scene when he starts talking about being the trade for years and he's all this sort of stuff. He always has to go too far. But you just made me think as well about one of the thing from talking about who was at school with them. It's implied, I believe it's in Modern Men, that Albert went to school with them as well, because they say a Dockside secondary modern, and Albert goes, "Oh, that was a rough place."
Well, maybe Albert just knew.
He went to school there.
No, I feel like because Albert was supposed to live in Peckham as well, like in the same area with Grandad growing up, so maybe he just knew of the school and the reputation. But yeah, maybe he went there. Why not? The whole family lived in Peckham.
It's got to be very difficult when you're writing characters and not knowing how long your series is going to go on for and if you're going to want to keep the characters around. Because again, even Boise, wasn't written as he turned out in the end.
No, and
neither was Trigger to a large extent.
Not at all, yeah. So. And Sullivan said he didn't know if he was going to bring Denzil back, so Denzil could have just been a one-off character, and just because he was so popular or because he liked Paul Barber so much, he decided to bring him back. I don't know. So back to the story. Del pretends reluctantly to agree to this deal. He says,
"First thing in the morning, 100 up front, we supply the paint, and that's extra."
Done.
And you will be.
So now we've reached the point in the episode where we are introduced to Corinne. So I've got a bit of an extra background story here for the character. We are going to talk about suicide here, just in case you want to skip for a couple of minutes. It says matter-of-factly in the Only Fools and Horses official inside story by Steve Clark that John Sullivan had planned to bring both Corinne and Denzil back for future episodes. So as we know, the actress that played the part, Eva Motley, passed away in February 1985, which was just a week or so before Series 4, Episode 1, Happy Returns, would first air on the BBC. So during the winter of 1984 and the filming of Series 4, we know that we lost Leonard Pierce, and a lot of rewriting on John Sullivan's part had to happen to include the Albert character and to honour Leonard Pierce's death with the departure of the Grandad character. We will never know, I suppose, what storylines, if any, were ever prepared for the Denzil and Corinne characters in the future. So Eva Motley herself, she was born in Barbados in 1953. In fact, her cousin Mia Motley was elected Prime Minister of Barbados in 2018. And she still is. She apparently was in a 2-year relationship with David Bowie, although according to some articles. I have no verification of that. It says it all over the place. I don't know if it's true. They were written about the show that she was in, which was called Widows. So Eva was known for playing the role of Bella in the ITV series Widows. She was apparently scheduled to appear in the sequel, but she left the production, claiming to have been racially and sexually abused by the production team.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, it states in the Suicide in the Entertainment Industry, an encyclopedia of 840 20th century cases by David Fraser, that Eva was depressed about losing her job and developed a dependency on cocaine and alcohol. Her body was found on Valentine's Day, 1985, in Maida Vale, London, and she had left a suicide note for her parents, and she was only 31 years old.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, so she actually celebrated her 30th birthday during the rehearsals for the shooting of this episode, and she was presented a cake in the shape of the Reliant Regal, So there's a lovely photo taken on the set, which can be seen in the lovely jubbly 40th anniversary book. And she looks like she's having such an amazing time with the cast in the next set. She's linked arms with Leonard Pierce and she had her head on his shoulder. So it's actually just a really nice photo. And it goes to show, like, look at a picture of someone being happy and you have no idea what's going on underneath the surface.
Yeah, that's an illness that tends to be a silent killer.
Yeah. David Jason said, Eva was lovely and was going to be a good team player, and Denzil and Corinne would have worked well in the future as a couple. She was obviously the one with the get up and go in that relationship, and he was the henpecked husband. She was very strong and would take no truck from Del Boy, and she had him completely sussed. Del knew this and tried to treat her with kid gloves as he tried to integrate himself with her, and he was all slimy and creepy crawly with her, trying to get on the good side, with no avail. One final quote. Ray Butts said, her death was a great shock, and suicide is so terrible. She was a very vivacious lady and great fun to have around and didn't seem to have a care in the world. I'm sure she would have been great back in the show at some time at a later date because she and Denzil were good characters and were nice people, and there was a lot of scope with them. Back to the episode. Here, Corinne enters and manages to not notice Del and Rodney, but she does go straight over to her beloved canary.
Hello, baby. Have you missed me? Denzil! What the hell is he doing in my home?
Del tries to diffuse the tension by paying her a compliment, but she wants him gone straight away. Del's body language and demeanour here is very funny because he's obviously so nervous when he's around strong women. The way that he almost bows down and walks carefully around her.
That's what I imagine he would have been like around his mum.
Yeah. Yeah, he was scared of his mom, when she got mad. So Denzil's trying to be all cool and brush it off as a harmless encounter, but I think here, even this early on, we can see how naive Denzil is being. This is before we even find out that Del messed up their wedding catering, and we as the audience already know that Del is likely to mess up this decorating job, even without the threat of upsetting Corinne. So we see that the stakes are very high here. A great line that helps you understand Denzil's character pretty well here is Corinne says,
Denzil, how can you trust this man? Every time you meet him, you end up drunk or out of pocket.
Yeah, I know, but he's a mate.
So then we get into this classic tale of Denzil and Corinne's wedding, and most people will remember this. Del catered their wedding. How crazy.
What was it we were supposed to have, Del? Lobster vol-au-vent, game pie,
Pie.
kidneys with saffron rice, beef and anchovy savoury.
Philadelphia truffles.
And what did we end up with? Pie and chips all round.
So now, for me, the delivery of these lines and the comic timing from Eva Motley is absolutely perfect, especially when we get to the line about the cake.
How many times have you seen a picture of a bride and groom cutting a jam sponge?
That little pause that she does right before she says, cutting a jam sponge, is absolutely hilarious. So the audience is in stitches and there's even some light applause here. And it is followed by another great moment where Rodney says,
Be fair, Corinne, be fair. You only got that at the 11th hour. Otherwise, it could have been an Eccles cake.
So Corinne exits with the final classic line,
You want them to do the decorating? Then you let them. But I promise you this, Denzil. If anything goes wrong, I'll make you wish your mother had a headache the night you was conceived.
I love the way that Denzil sort of cowers as she's saying that line.
Yeah.
He's expecting it to come at him.
everyone is terrified of Corinne, but... So Corinne exits and there's a lot of slamming and crashing going on in the kitchen, and Denzil is still ducking down, frozen in fear. And Rodney and Del both seem pretty shell-shocked, but they say they're leaving. And here we get a little bit of a line of a foreshadowing when Del mentions putting Busby in the kitchen tomorrow because of the paint fumes. So he calls him Busby again. You remember where that reference comes from?
I do.
The BT bird, yeah. Del and Rodders exit, and Rodney suddenly gets all preoccupied again with his whiteness.
Look, I know I'm white, but I'm no whiter than anyone else.
You are, you're whiter than Denzil.
Kunta Kinte's whiter than Denzil.
So Kunta Kinte is the main character in Roots, which was the saga of an American family, which was a 1976 novel, which was later made into a TV miniseries. Do you know who played Kunta Kinte? Someone you've met.
Tony Todd?
No, Lever Burton.
Oh, Lever Burton.
Yeah.
But I didn't meet them on the street. Oh, dude, it was a sci-fi convention. Nerd alert.
Cool, blimey. Nerd alert. We also met the Only Fools and Horses people at conventions. So.
Oh, yeah, we did. We met Marlene and Sid and Voicey and Trigger at sci-fi conventions. It was memorabilia in Birmingham, wasn't it? We met there.
Yeah, and we have the photo. They had the Nelson Mandela flat set up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it looks like we're in the flat with them.
Yes. We are cool.
So they continue with this, like, ribbing on Rodney's whiteness as they exit the scene, having a silly argument. Rodney throws Del's hat under a bus. And that's the end of the scene. So, do you have any notes, dude?
Have we heard "Shut Up, You Tart" before this?
Yes. Well, I don't know about "Shut Up, You Tart." He calls him a tart in Ashes to Ashes. But I don't know if he says "Shut Up, You Tart."
Because he says "Shut Up, You Tart" before they're going to Denzil's place. So yeah, I just wondered if that was the first time we heard it.
Shut up, you tart.
There is a funny line that I love about the whiteness of Rodney when he says,
You are? You look like a blood donor who couldn't say no.
I just wonder why they decided to bring up how white Nick Lyndhurst was. I guess it's because they had Denzil in the scene and they wanted to play off the fact that he's a black man and Rodney's a white man, and I don't know. But yeah, and maybe because Rodney tried so hard to be cool when he first came in, that's why they added it in. I just always think it's interesting when writers choose to write about physical attributes of their actors, because obviously you can only do that if you have that particular actor. It's like in the Carry-Ons when they used to write a lot of fat jokes because they had Hattie Jakes playing the character, you know. I just think this is something interesting that writers sometimes choose to do. I'm always a bit wary about doing that myself because I don't want to offend anyone if I write a script. So I wonder if he checked with Nick Lyndhurst and went, by the way, you're really white. Can I point that out in the script and make some jokes about it? I don't know. Because some people I think would get very funny about that.
I don't think many actors and actresses can be sensitive about that stuff, but also I don't think this is something that Nick Lyndhurst would have ever been offended by in a million years.
Well, no, that's what I mean. I think nowadays you would have to be a lot more careful about stuff like that, because I don't really follow anything sort of pop culture-y these days, but I vaguely remember there was an actress that was in a show recently and everyone was commenting on her appearance. They said she had a big nose or something and she got really upset about it. And I just thought to myself, when I was reading about that, I was like, yeah, you can't be upset about people commenting on your physical appearance when you put yourself on television. Or even on the internet, visually, not verbally, I guess. If you put yourself out there physically, people are going to comment on your looks, and that's just something you can't avoid. But obviously, if you're an actor and they write it as part of the script, that's like a whole other level. In this particular case, I don't think they wrote anything in the script about having a big nose. That was just people being arseholes, sort of, and picking on her appearance in real life. But even so, I just wonder, if someone came up to me and they were like, okay, we're going to do some jokes about fat arms because we think you've got really fat arms. Is that okay? Like, I feel like I had to say yes, but it would obviously make me feel a bit bad inside, even though I go along with it. So yeah, I just wonder if it's something that people do now and they do have to ask actors before they make jokes about their physical appearance.
I'm guessing if we had to try to get into the mind of John Sullivan here, having the West Indian character and Denzil doing all of that stuff and Rodney always trying to act cool was probably where he got the idea from. He'll have Rodney do some kind of like maneuver where he's like, yeah, and then they would highlight the fact that he's very white. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think he put that much thought into it.
That's probably why, because they've never brought it up before, but now they have Denzil's character appear. Maybe that's why they did decide to comment on it.
Yeah.
I just love the end of the scene. I love the continuing dialogue as it fades out. It's gone under a bus now. I'll throw you under a bus.
Yeah, throw you under that bloody
bus. It just kind of cuts off. It just, it like fades out. So you can imagine that conversation carried on, which I really love when they do things like that. It's that improv. It's lovely.
So we cut to the next day and the Trotters are all arriving for a day's work. Except Del is not dressed for work, as usual. Grandad is with them now, and he starts out by worrying...
They ain't got a serving hatch, have they?
Rodney and Grandad are all loaded up with paint and dust sheets, and Del is carrying nothing. We can immediately see how seriously they're taking this job. Grandad comes in and puts on the TV. Del sits down and starts eating the fruit. And again, we get insight into how Corinne knows Del very well because she's left a note.
Leave the telly alone, don't eat the fruit and stay out of the kitchen.
Leave the telly alone and don't eat the fruit. What sort of people does she think we are?
Yeah, she got us tagged all wrong, hasn't she? Yeah.
Rodney's the only one speaking any sense at this point, and Del tells him to go in the kitchen and put the kettle on, but Rodney says they should stay out of the kitchen because Corinne told them to. Grandad says,
well, everyone's entitled to a cup of tea, Rodney. I mean, it's in the Magna Carta or something.
Just in case anyone doesn't know, it's hilarious that Grandad mentions the Magna Carta here because the Magna Carta aimed to curb the king's absolute power by establishing that he was not above the law, and Del always thinks he's above the law. So I think that's really funny. So a little later in the day, and Del is now sitting down and he's got the phone in his lap. We see Rodney and Grandad are actually working behind him and he's doing nothing. But he is making some long distance phone calls. So Del calls his friend Ginger Ted, who turns out to be living in Vancouver. So according to the time that Del mentions, it would have been 2:30 a.m. in Vancouver. So why did he answer the phone? But then in those days, you probably couldn't put your phone on silent, could you? So
No, you couldn't. It would have been a landline, wouldn't it?
So it is worth mentioning here that Del says satellite, which is the same mispronunciation of satellite that he uses again in the future episode.
Oh, the sky's the limit.
Got it. So all at once, everything seems to just go wrong here.
Oi, you, where's my tea?
What tea?
Well, I asked you about an hour ago to put the kettle on to have a cup of Darjeeling, remember?
Oh, God, yeah, I forgot all about it. Bloody hell, I left the kettle on the gas!
Then he runs into the kitchen and it's completely filled with steam. So they all come in and they panic and they try to clean everything up, but there's a big hole burned in the bottom of the kettle. Del says,
Put it back, say nothing. She might blame Denzil.
Rodney and Del seem to think it'll be okay, but that's when Grandad comes over with the canary cage.
Del, look. It's the bird. You don't look very well to me.
That is most probably due to the fact, Grandad, that he is stone dead. You dozy little twonk, Rodney.
So this triggers a big bickering match to begin between Del and Rodney, and we, the audience, are going to see so many things that Corinne is going to be upset about. Rodney suggests...
We could say it was caused by paint fumes.
When Corinne comes back in here, she's going to find her kettle's been knackered, her kitchen's been turned into a Turkish bath, and she's got a Kentucky Fried Canary at the bottom of a cake. And we're going to say paint fumes.
Yeah, you're right.
Del's solution is sending Grandad out to get some Jaffa cakes.
And the canary.
So they seem very worried that Grandad will get it wrong. He insists that he'll remember, so he takes all of Del's money and heads off.
Yellow canary. Yellow canary.
I do that though, whenever I'm trying to remember something, I repeat it to myself like that when I'm leaving. So actually that's the end of the scene. Any other notes?
I do like the way that they turn the line around.
Well, I suppose it could have been worse.
Could it?
Well, if you're going to be like that, no.
Because everybody says that, right? As part of habit, after something goes wrong. And I love that they didn't just let that settle, because it actually couldn't have been much worse, which is really good. And I thought that was the fakest dead bird I've seen in a long time. And I said there's no way that Corinne would blame Denzil for the kettle, because clearly he hasn't been in all day and it was fine when she left this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't believe Del thinks he'd get away with making long-distance calls. Because again, even the time that they were there is when the calls were made. It's just these really stupid things that surely something is going to come back, because long-distance calls used to be very expensive in those days.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of money, so it's not like they wouldn't notice it on their bill.
Yeah, and he's obviously she's gonna know he's eating the fruit too. Okay, so we cut to Lombardi's pet store. The scene shows Grandad coming down the street and entering, and he runs up to the counter and frantically asks Louis for a canary. Louis was played by actor Anthony Morton, who was from Birmingham and was a main character in Crossroads, but he was also in an episode of Citizen Smith, John Sullivan's first show. It's hilarious how he greets Grandad as Grandad.
I suppose he had to, because otherwise we haven't heard Grandad's real name yet in the series. Everyone calls him Grandad.
No. Well, we never hear it in the show, even though, again, everyone says his name is... It says in the quiz book that his name's Edward, and it sounds in Rock and Chips like they're calling him Ted, and I have no idea why or where they get this name from, again. So this exchange of dialogue here is pretty funny. It's a little bit like two Ronnies.
I got a lovely green finch. She's beautiful. No, I want a canary.
You want a bird of paradise.
Is it a canary?
No.
Well, I don't want it.
All right, stay calm now, please. What do you want?
Yes, this reminded me of a sketch on its own. I completely agree with you, this interaction between them.
So it turns out in the Trotter's good fortune that he only has one canary, Arturo, and it's his own pet, and he couldn't possibly part with him. Now, this is a good example of how all the locals are kind of like Del here, because obviously Arturo is not really his pet. This is his sales tactic.
I'll give you £45.
Okay, don't.
I looked that up, and it's about £194. That's a lot of money. So
that is a lot of
I
money.
think, like, from what I look it up, it says it should have been about £3 for a canary. So this is why there's like all that argument later about how much it was.
I mean, £45 is expensive, but when you translate into modern currency, my God, yes, it is especially expensive.
So it is really funny. Yeah, I never used to think that was such a big deal, but when you do the conversion, it's insane, £194 for Arturo. So strangely enough, and very unfortunately, Grandad happens to run into Corinne just as he's leaving the pet store.
Oh, hello, Corinne, love.
Could you really hide a giant canary cage behind your back?
No, she clearly saw it, even at the end when he walks away.
Well, I'll see you back there later, love.
She turns around. All she had to do is stand and watch him leave. She'd just seen, it's clearly a bird cage he's got in his hand, even though it's covered. Was she not a little bit suspicious when she saw that?
Yeah.
Especially later on when she's back at the flat and sees that the bird is alive, when she put two and two together. I mean, she's not a stupid woman. She saw Grandad with a bird cage earlier and then the bird's alive. Clearly coming out of a pet store, Grandad clearly bought a new bird. I mean, that was obvious.
Yeah. The other thing here is there's two things I wrote. The fact that she says,
Oh, Grandad.
She's had, at the beginning of the episode, Denzil says that Corinne has had that pet for years. I wouldn't be out smiling and walking around in public if my canary was dead. I'd be like inconsolable. I know it probably sounds exaggerated, but she just seems normal.
No, dude,
yeah.
It doesn't I mean, I completely agree with you. The day you woke up that morning and your animal had died, you would just be distraught. Yeah. I would have cancelled the painting and decorating that day and stayed home.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was going to say one more thing that Jenny and I always quote from this episode is,
I thought you was back at the flat.
I am.
I know nobody laughs at that in the audience, but I think that's hilarious.
I think that's really funny too.
All right, so the next scene is back at the flat and it starts zoomed in on the canary hopping around in the cage. Del is unhappy that he had to pay 50 quid for him. So there's a discussion here around whether Corinne will be able to tell the difference. I think obviously in hindsight, this is all just to throw the audience off the scent of the final punchline because we're all focused now on will she be able to tell the difference? Is there something different about this bird?
Yes, that's what I think most people will think is going to be the thing, that this bird's going to do something, like turn out to be a boy when she had a girl bird or something.
Right. So Del says,
Look, Soppy, unless the other one had got a dimple in its chin and a beer gut, no one is going to be none the wiser.
So they hear the keys in the background and they all jump up. Del makes Rodney run up the ladder and they work, pretend to work.
That's the way, Rodney. Lots of care. That's right. I want this to be a 100% luxurious job. I want this place to look like a palace for Denzil and Corinne when the... Oh, hello, Corinne.
Considering Del is meant to be an accomplished con man, that is one of the worst acting stints he did from any situation.
You can see it on Corinne's face. She just rolls her eyes. She's like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. But even so, why bother? Why ask? Why bother then?
Yeah.
If they're going to, make it so obvious.
But Corinne is actually very pleasant with them, with a hint of dryness. And she even offers them a cup of tea.
No!
So she heads into the kitchen and they all wait with bated breath. Rodney is really funny because he keeps wiping the wall while he's worried.
She's going to twig it. I know she is.
And Rodney, just have faith in me, will you?
But then their worst fear is confirmed. She runs out of the kitchen.
What's happened to my canary?
They all head into the kitchen to look at the cage. Corinne is observing Arturo hopping around and they all act like it's good.
Well, he seems all right to me, love.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah, look at him, he's hopping about all over the place like a good one.
Yeah, I know that, but when I woke up this morning, he was dead.
Cut to the final scene in the Nag's head. This is our conclusion. The camera cuts across the little table on the left and they're all sitting down looking forlorn.
I never did like that, Corinne.
No, fancy chucking us out like that.
So again, Rodney is the voice of reason here. He says they should have followed the note's instructions and not gone in the kitchen. They confirm that she wasn't actually angry about the canary as much as she was about the kettle. We hear Brendan enter from behind their table and they wonder if he knows. They think not until he's over the other side of the bar and he starts singing the Tweety Bird song.
I thought, Purita. I was talking to Italian Louis. He told me he sold your flea-bitten canary for £45.
Grandad gets caught out by his own Del Boy trick here. Brendan ridicules them and he confirms that he's taken over the job at Denzil's and he calls them amateurs. So these are all the things that Del hates. It's like a lot of blows. Del is very angry and he's still angling to get one over on Brendan. So here we get the first appearance of Mike Fisher. And he appears in the background. He greets them very warmly. So the wonderful Kenneth MacDonald will go on to be part of the main cast of side characters for evermore, well, at least until the end of Time on Our Hands. So we had previously mentioned his role as Nobby Clark in It Ain't
It ain't half
up, Mum. So he was in a lot of other stuff too. He was also in Brookside, just like Paul Barber, for quite a while. And all fans will know that he unfortunately did pass away very young, and he was only 50 when he had a heart attack in Hawaii with his family. So we will wait until a little bit more in our timeline before we go into more detail on Mike. But for today, I will just read a little quote from Kenneth MacDonald about his first time playing Mike. He had just gotten a call from John Sullivan asking him to play Mike, and he said, "I was delighted because I'd always watched Only Fools and Horses. I didn't have many lines in my first episode, Who's a Pretty Boy, but I did have a nice exchange with David Jason about doing up the pub, and it was fun doing the show. I thought that was probably it, and that I'd only be in one episode. But then I went to the end of the series party, and I got a hint that I might be back when Sullivan came up to me and asked me and said that he'd liked what I'd done, and hopefully there would be more episodes for me in the next series. And I thought, gosh, I might be back. I went home elated."
Oh, that's lovely.
So Mike introduces himself.
You must be the new governor.
That's right, Mike Fisher. Pleased to meet you.
Hello, Mike. Del Trotter. People may have mentioned me.
Yes, certainly am.
So there's a little exchange of dialogue here, and in many ways it's just the perfect way to introduce Mike into the cast, because we all know as long-term fans that one of Del and Mike's things is that they always have these exchanges where Del manages to trick Mike into buying stupid stuff that he doesn't want at all. And even though Mike's resolve gets stronger and stronger over the years, he still falls victim to Del's patter. So here he manages to convince Mike to hire him instead of Brendan. Most of us are wondering, how is Del going to decorate the Nag's head? But then we find out at the end that he's not.
But why should I turn down an offer of £1,000 and accept one of £2,000?
The £2,000 would be dispersed thus. There would be £500 for Vu, £500 for V.
Yeah, and what happens to the 1,000 that's left over?
We give that to the Irishman and let him do the job.
You've got a deal, Mr. Trotter.
Thank you, Michael. Brendan, can I have a word? Who's a pretty boy then?
Any other notes on that scene?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I think it's interesting that when Brendan first came in, they assumed that Corinne was the one who told him, and then he corrected them that it wasn't Corinne.
Yeah.
And it was the pet shop owner. But then he said that he's taken over the job at Denzil, so he has also spoken to Corinne.
Yes, or Denzil. Yeah, who knows?
Or Denzil. Yeah, so that was a bit like, because they literally looked like they just came from Corinne's and went straight to the pub. They're all still wearing the outfits and everything. So that was some fast work of Corinne to get in touch with Brendan, especially since he doesn't have his number.
Yeah,
so
right.
They must have actually met each other and seen each other to have the conversation. So yes, I just thought that was really funny. And also the fact that everyone in the Nag's Head laughed when he started singing the Tweety Bird song, implying that they were all in on the joke and they all knew as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought that was quite funny, because I'm like, did everybody know? Because that was very fast.
Yes.
So.
But Mike didn't know, because if he did, he wouldn't have dealt with Del. Yeah. I don't know.
But yeah. I just thought that was, I was like, wow, that's really quick. Nice work, Corinne. Very quick.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a great introduction to Mike. As you said, I think that we already get a lot about his character just in this very short exchange. But if anything, Mike seems less willing to be dodgy in later episodes. So I'm surmising that maybe this plan with Del to get this money didn't go well, because we never find out how it went. So maybe he learned his lesson after this encounter with Del and working with Del on a scheme that things tend to go wrong. Everything he touches goes wrong. So maybe that was.
But he doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't like team up with Del. I mean, Chain Gang is the only time I can think where Mike sort of gets himself involved in business with Del again, but usually he buys things off Del, but to get to the point where he's in on it and he's ripping someone off with Del, which is what this situation was.
Yeah.
I guess maybe in Hole in One, I will talk about that when we do the episode, but I wonder if he was in on that. I'm not sure, because there are times when I think he might have been.
Yeah,
so,
we'll have to discuss that at Hole in One, yeah. I agree.
But yeah, that's everything I have.
Okay, alrighty. Well then, if we have nothing else, let's move on to our awards for this week.
And guess what? He's only one.
Okay, so as always, we have 3 awards to announce this week, and we'll start with our Plonker of the Week.
Don't be a plonker.
So for Plonker of the Week, we will each nominate a plonker, and we will discuss and decide who wins. So who's your plonker this week, dude?
Del.
Yes, mine too. And why is Del your plonker?
Well, it's all his fault. This whole thing is all his fault. Like, none of this would have happened. I mean, I wonder how good of a job they would have done decorating regardless. But if they hadn't gone in the kitchen, they would never have known that the canary had died. I mean, yes, Corinne should have mentioned it, but none of this would have happened. So yeah, this whole thing is Del's fault.
Yeah, I agree. I said volunteering for them to do the job in the first place because they aren't trained, and breaking all the rules. Those are the two things I put down for Del's the plonker. So nice and easy one this week. Del is this week's plonker of the week.
That thing cost 50 quid.
So this week, Jenny will award the best line of the episode and I will award the best moment of the episode. So dude, what line have you chosen for the best line of this episode?
This episode's got some good lines, but my favourite is, how many times have you seen a picture of a bride and groom cutting a jam sponge? That's just my favourite line.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
The blood donor line gets an honourable mention from me. I do think that's very funny. Yeah. The blood donor who couldn't say no. But that's a great line, dude.
Yeah. What about you? What have you chosen for best moment?
Okay, so this was a little bit tricky because, again, I couldn't think of sort of one particular thing. So I've got a few to choose from. I put the best moment, I guess, with regards to the story would be, when I woke up this morning, he was dead. Yeah. And they all look like at the that's the punchline, right, of the episode that the episode's building to. But also the introduction of Denzil and the introduction of Mike are very special things. So I don't know if I'd call that a best moment, but there's two major characters introduced in this episode. So I have to choose one best moment. So I guess I have to choose the canary reveal.
Yeah.
When I woke up this morning, he was dead. That has to be the best moment because that's probably the moment most people think of when they think of this episode.
Yeah, very, very true. Yeah.
Any honourable mentions?
No, I was just thinking for the best line, another honourable mention could be when Corinne yells at Denzil, "I'll make you wish your mother had a headache the night you was conceived." That's another line people like. But yeah, I do think that the jam sponge line, it's just the delivery of the jam sponge line. Yeah, that makes it so good. So yeah, so no, if we've got nothing else.
Okay, so drink up, we're leaving.
So that about wraps it up for this week. Join us next week when we'll be discussing Series 3, Episode 8 and the 1983 Christmas special, Thicker Than Water. Until then.
Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, you can email us at longlivehooky street podcast@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. Bonjour.